They say honesty is the best policy unless you're married, then it's more like a ticking time bomb wrapped in, I was just joking, and lit with a match called, a few too many drinks. I used to think game nights were harmless until I realized it's just Monopoly with your marriage on the line. Funny how someone can say, no offense, right before slashing your throat with a smile. And the worst part? Everyone laughs, not realizing they just watched the first nail go into the coffin of your sanity. It was a Saturday evening like any other, wine poured, charcuterie laid out with surgical precision, and my wife dressed like she was auditioning for a movie called Temptation, but make it look casual. We'd invited a few close friends over for what was meant to be a couple's honesty night, her idea, naturally. She thought it would spice things up and help us all grow closer, but I could already tell by the glint in her eye and the way she triple-checked her makeup that she wasn't playing for personal growth. The moment that truly cracked the illusion wasn't loud or explosive, it was small, unassuming. I was in the kitchen grabbing ice when I noticed her perfume bottle, the one I gave her on our 5th anniversary, half spilled onto the countertop. I wiped it instinctively, then realized it hadn't been used in weeks. She'd said it was too strong for every day. So why tonight? Why this specific bottle? Then I saw the real tell. A smudge of lipstick, ruby red, not her usual shade, on the rim of a second wine glass that had been set out before any guest arrived. And not just any wine glass, the one I always use. My glass. She poured into it, then changed her mind and left it, already smeared with that fresh red she wasn't wearing when she came downstairs. Her lips had touched it when I wasn't around. I didn't say a word. Not then. I cleaned it. Quietly. Put it back. Let her think the stage was still hers. I've always believed that rage is for the weak. Control, that's the true weapon. That's when I decided tonight wouldn't be just another harmless game night. No, this would be the audition. I watched as our guests trickled in, Mark and Dana, playful as ever. Chris, my best friend since college, single, charming, unsuspecting. And Lena and Todd, the kind of couple who pretend to argue for fun, but whose sex life probably died during the Obama administration. The game was my idea, or so they thought. A set of note cards, each with a spicy question. All anonymous, written earlier by me, but made to look like we all contributed. If you could hook up with any friend's spouse, who would it be? That one I placed strategically at the bottom of the pile. I'd rehearsed every possible answer in my mind, every facial twitch, every fake laugh I'd need. But nothing prepared me for how quickly, how eagerly she reached for that card like she'd been waiting for it. Her laugh was just a little too breathy, her eyes not quite meeting mine. And then she said it. Chris. My best friend. She said his name like it was a confession and a dare all at once, dragging out the syllables with that syrupy sweetness she saves for flirtation and manipulation. The room went silent for a second too long. Then the laughter came, uneasy, nervous, fragmented. Chris looked confused, maybe even a little flattered. Everyone played it off. I nodded, even chuckled, because I knew what they didn't. This wasn't her being funny. It wasn't a game. It was truth slipped under the radar of comedy, and I'd seen the way she looked at him for months now, how she'd joke about how good he looked in a suit, how she'd accidentally brush against him when passing wine, how she'd light up when he complimented her and sulk when he didn't. It all clicked, the extra effort on her appearance tonight, the early wine pour, the perfume she only wore when she needed to feel irresistible. She wanted to be caught, just not by me. She wanted the thrill, the fantasy, the danger, but she didn't think I was dangerous enough to notice. That's the thing about betrayal, it never announces itself with fireworks. It seeps in quietly, with lipstick stains and forced laughter. But she didn't know I'd been watching. She didn't know tonight was a trap. And she definitely didn't know that the next card in the deck, have you ever fantasized about your best friend's partner, was written for Chris. I wanted to see his answer too. Not because I didn't trust him, but because trust is a currency. And tonight, I was cashing out. We used to have a rhythm, quiet mornings with coffee and the sound of her humming in the kitchen, soft touches on the shoulder in passing, shared jokes that only we understood. I knew her schedule better than mine, knew how she liked her eggs, knew when she needed silence and when she needed to be held. Ours wasn't a love that burned like wildfire, it was steady, dependable, the kind of love that doesn't make the movies but holds you through the worst nights. Or at least, that's what I told myself. Because even when the smiles still came, I could feel them starting to miss their mark. She started talking about things like alignment and self-actualization, throwing out phrases she never used before like she'd just read them off a wellness guru's Instagram. I need to protect my peace, she said once after I asked if she wanted to watch a movie together like we always did on Fridays. Protected from what? From me? She still said, "I love you" at night. But there was a lag, a strange hesitation in her voice, like she was playing back a line she wasn't sure she still believed in. It started slow. She'd go to bed earlier, not because she was tired, but because she said she needed to process the day alone. She didn't want me holding her as she fell asleep anymore. Said it made her feel crowded. Crowded. I didn't know what to do with that word. Then came the solo walks, the last-minute spa weekends with new friends from yoga I'd never met, and the passwords on her phone and laptop suddenly reset because of some security breach she never explained. I didn't push. I didn't ask. Not because I didn't want answers, but because I was afraid of what they'd confirm. Her scent changed too, literally. She started wearing a new perfume she never told me she bought. I asked what it was called once. She said, "Something for myself." Not for me. Not for us. For herself. She started journaling, a habit I used to love about her. Except now she hid the journal. Kept it in her car, or under her pillow, depending on the day, and once I swear I saw her tuck it into her gym bag like it was something radioactive. One afternoon, I was vacuuming her car for her, something I always did, just to be nice, and found a second pair of sunglasses in the glove compartment. Not hers. Men's. Not mine. Expensive. I stared at them like they might explode in my hands. But when I brought them up, I didn't accuse. I simply said, "Whose are these?" And she laughed, that brittle, dry laugh she only uses when she's pretending not to lie. "Probably Dana's husband's," she said. "She sat up front last week. But Dana always sits in the back. She gets car sick." I didn't say anything. Just nodded. Vacuumed the rest of the car in silence, like the idiot she now believed me to be. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself love meant trust. But the cracks were spreading. She started to post more on social media, nothing overtly damning, just little things. A glass of wine with someone's hand barely cropped out of frame. A selfie where the reflection in her sunglasses showed someone sitting across from her. I didn't bring it up. I didn't want to seem insecure. That was the new sin in her eyes. "Insecurity is toxic," she said once when I asked if she wanted to go to the same party I used to drag her to every year. She said she had other plans now. She needed variety. Another time, she was late coming home. An hour passed when she said she'd be back from yoga, and when I asked if everything was okay, she snapped, "I don't need to check in with you every second of my life." I'd never asked her to. Never even tracked her before. But now she spoke like I was her captor instead of her husband. And yet, I still held on. I still made her breakfast. Still kissed her forehead in the mornings, even though she barely reacted. Still sent her goodnight texts when she said she'd be staying at Dana's, even though Dana once texted me by mistake while she was supposedly with her. "See you tomorrow," the text said. I didn't reply, just stared at it, wondering if I'd crossed the threshold where silence becomes complicity. We went to dinner with friends, and she laughed like nothing was wrong. Touched my arm like it meant something. But her eyes always wandered. Especially when Chris was around. That's when I knew. I watched the way she adjusted her top when he entered the room. The way she touched her hair, changed her posture, exaggerated her laughter. She stopped performing for me. Started auditioning for someone else. But still, I didn't confront her. I wasn't ready. Because confronting meant admitting. And admitting meant I'd failed. So instead, I waited. And while I waited, I studied. I listened. I prepared. Because if she wanted to treat this marriage like a stage, then she'd better prepare for the final act. And I'd be writing it. It was a Tuesday afternoon, unremarkable in every way. Overcast skies, lukewarm coffee, and the faint hum of a lawnmower somewhere in the distance. She had left for what she claimed was a networking lunch with a few women from her coaching circle, the kind of vague social engagement she'd recently taken to announcing with overemphasis, like she needed me to know she had somewhere else to be. Anywhere else, but with me. I didn't plan to check her location. I wasn't that kind of man. Or at least, I hadn't been. But something about the way she lingered by the mirror that morning, fixing her eyeliner 3 times, changing her outfit twice, left a residue in my chest that I couldn't shake. When I opened the tracking app we had set up years ago for safety, I didn't expect to see anything but a trendy cafe or maybe her therapist's office. Instead, I saw a pin dropped outside a hotel 2 suburbs over, a low-rise, mid-range business chain with no reason to exist except for travelers and secrets. My thumb hovered over the screen. The coffee in my other hand turned cold. I didn't speak. I didn't throw the cup or call her or even breathe differently. I just sat there and stared at that blinking red dot like it was a sniper scope trained directly on my heart. I waited. Watched. The pin didn't move for over an hour. No messages came in. She hadn't even turned off location sharing. That was the part that broke me, quietly, efficiently. Not the lie itself, but the arrogance of it. The belief that I wouldn't look. That even if I did, I wouldn't do anything about it. She thought she had me tamed, neutered, broken down into a man too afraid to confront the truth. But what she didn't realize is that stillness isn't always surrender. Sometimes, it's aim. When she came home that evening, she wore the same outfit, but her hair had changed, looser, like someone else's hands had been through it. She smelled like hotel soap barely masked by perfume. She talked fast, too fast, about how great the lunch had been, how aligned she felt now with her inner path, how she might sign up for a weekend retreat, maybe even lead one. I nodded. I asked her how the food was. She said, they had these amazing vegan sliders. I said, oh, which restaurant? She hesitated for just a beat too long, then said, the Green Fork. But I'd already checked the Green Fork's social media. It was closed today for renovations. The flyer had their opening date, a bright, bold, coming back this Friday, splashed across their feed. I just smiled and said, we should go sometime. She said, definitely. And then she kissed me. On the cheek. The wrong cheek. The one she never used. Like she couldn't remember which version of me she was still pretending to love. That night, I made her favorite pasta. She said it was delicious. I knew it was overcooked. I left the dishes in the sink. I waited until she fell asleep, soft breathing, limbs sprawled in that entitled way of someone who thinks they own the bed and everyone in it. Then I picked up her phone. Not to snoop. I didn't need proof. I already had the address. But I wanted a name. A shape to the shadow. Her password hadn't changed. That surprised me. Maybe she thought I still wouldn't dare. But it opened. I went straight to her messages. There were no names that stood out. No incriminating photos or videos. Nothing obvious. Until I saw the calendar. She had an event saved for today. Titled, Check-In, set for 12:15 p.m. The notes section said, Room 218. He likes white wine. That was it. A little digital breadcrumb soaked in contempt. I locked the phone, placed it back exactly where it had been. Then I stood in the doorway and watched her sleep. Watched her lie there with the same peaceful face I'd kissed 1,000 times, unaware that I now knew everything. I didn't feel rage. Didn't feel sorrow. I felt precision. I felt silence hardening into something surgical. In that moment, the part of me that once loved her died with a whisper, not a scream. And in its place rose something colder, smarter, infinitely more dangerous. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg or plead or give her the dignity of knowing she'd broken me. No. I would play the long game. I would build the stage. I would write the script. And when she took her final bow, it would be to the sound of her world collapsing beneath her. Because betrayal like this doesn't deserve confrontation. It deserves orchestration. I became a ghost in my own life, not absent, but invisible, present in every room, yet unnoticed, like the hum of electricity in the walls. I smiled at the right moments, kissed her goodbye in the mornings, even complimented her on a new dress she wore the day after her hotel rendezvous, just to see how easily she could fake gratitude. She beamed, said I was finally seeing her, and in that moment, I understood exactly how much she underestimated me. So I began my quiet war. No raised voices, no confrontations. Only questions disguised as conversation, gestures masked as affection, all with one purpose, to confirm and calculate. The first thing I did was tag her best friend Dana's car. A magnetic GPS tracker under the rear bumper. Simple, cheap, discreet. She thought she was smart using Dana's name as a shield, but people forget. Alibis have patterns. For 2 weeks, I tracked Dana's actual movements, her job, her gym, her weekend errands, and cross-referenced them with the excuses my wife gave. They only overlapped twice. Once for a legitimate brunch, the other for a 15-minute coffee stop that couldn't possibly account for the 3 hours she said they'd spent reconnecting. I didn't confront Dana. I didn't need to. I just logged the data, like a scientist observing a test subject. Next came the finances. Not the bank account. That was too obvious, too easily scrubbed. I went for the loyalty cards. Her coffee app. The ride-share history on our shared car insurance portal. People never think to delete the trail of small conveniences. One ride caught my attention. An Uber trip logged under her name at 11:38 p.m. on a Thursday. Drop-off location, the same hotel she'd checked into on that calendar event. She told me she was at a meditation class and came home smelling like lavender and lies. I screenshotted it, archived it. Then I sent flowers to her office. Just because. White lilies, her favorite, with a note that read, "Proud of you. Lunch soon." She sent me a selfie of the bouquet. Smiling. Radiant. But something felt off. I waited until she fell asleep, then checked the florist's delivery log through a guest account. She'd picked them up at the front desk after returning from a meeting. I called her office the next morning from a burner number. Said I was with a courier service and needed to verify when Emily would be available for drop-off. The receptionist didn't hesitate. "She's out this week on personal days," she said. That's when I knew this wasn't just emotional drift. This was strategic deception. Calculated betrayal. And so I mirrored her. Matched her dishonesty with discipline. Her chaos with order. I asked if she wanted to plan a weekend away, just us. A cabin, isolated, romantic. She hesitated. Said she had a lot on her plate right now. I watched her face, how her eyes darted to her phone just a second too long before replying. She was texting someone, probably stalling a lover, buying time. I told her it was okay. I understood. Then, a few days later, I mentioned I might be going away for work. A short trip. 2 nights. She lit up like a teenager who just found out her parents were leaving town. "That's perfect," she said. "You should go. You've been working so hard." And there it was, the green light. I booked no such trip. Instead, I prepared the house. I bought a new motion-sensitive camera, hidden in the bookshelf, facing the living room. Another in the hallway. One in the bedroom, cleverly nestled behind the vent grill. She wouldn't notice. She never noticed anything I did unless it involved her. That weekend, I left, packed a bag, kissed her goodbye, drove around the block, and parked a few streets away with the car off and the windows cracked. Then I waited. She ordered takeout for one. Showered. Changed clothes twice. And at 10:17 p.m., the doorbell rang. I couldn't see his face clearly from the angle, but he was tall, athletic, familiar. Her hug told me everything. Not friendly. Not platonic. She led him inside, and within 10 minutes, they were kissing in the hallway like a pair of horny teenagers trying not to get caught. Except there was no danger for them. She thought I was gone. She thought she was safe. I didn't watch all of it. Just enough. Enough to know this wasn't a one-time lapse. It was routine. Rehearsed. Efficient. She even had clean towels set out in the guest bathroom. And yet, when I returned home Sunday evening, she greeted me in the kitchen like nothing had happened. Cooked dinner. Asked about my trip. Said she missed me. I said I missed her too, and for the first time, I meant it. But not her now. Her before. The woman who used to look at me like I was the only man in the world. Now she looked past me, over me, through me. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I wanted to know who he was. What he meant to her. I wanted names, timelines, leverage. So I did what any betrayed man with brains would do. I offered her my phone one night while scrolling through an ad and said, "This guy looks just like Chris. Don't you think?" Her expression froze for half a second. That was all I needed. She swallowed hard. Laughed. Said, "You're crazy." But I saw the flicker in her eyes, the sudden fear, the clumsy attempt to regain control. I smiled, nodded, handed her the phone, and said, "Yeah, must be the lighting." She had no idea that I'd already won the game. I was just setting up the final move. It was a charity gala, elegant, upscale, the kind of event where the champagne flows quietly and everyone pretends they aren't judging each other's shoes. My wife had insisted we go, said it would be good for networking, and wore a black satin dress I hadn't seen before, slit just high enough to be noticed but not questioned. She looked stunning. Every man in the room noticed. And so did I, because I'd seen that dress before 2 weeks ago, folded on a hotel room chair in a photo I'd recovered from a deleted folder on her phone, one of several I'd cloned onto a hidden backup drive. The photo hadn't shown her face, just her back. The same mole above her left hip. The same curves. The same necklace, mine, from our 3rd anniversary, dangling as she leaned into someone's chest, kissing his neck like she had nothing to lose. So I waited. I let her enjoy the night, let her soak in the admiration, the attention, the illusion of control. We made small talk with donors, clinked glasses with executives. She played the doting wife well, touching my arm, laughing too loud, feeding the fantasy. I fed it too, right up until the moment they called everyone to attention for the evening's presentation. The screen behind the stage flickered to life as the MC gave his usual scripted pitch about hope, generosity, building the future. And then the video started. A collage of community stories, happy couples, families, testimonials, all set to soft piano music. And then for exactly 3 seconds, buried in the middle of a clip featuring community highlights from a nearby event center, a raw feed had been mistakenly included, footage captured by one of the charity's own security cams during a setup weekend. Her, laughing with him in the parking lot, pulling him into the supply closet. I knew it was coming. I'd arranged it. Paid the AV team weeks ago to accidentally include it. The room didn't notice. It went by too fast. But she did. I didn't look at the screen. I looked at her. And her soul left her body right there in front of me. Her smile collapsed like scaffolding. She looked at me. I didn't blink. I just said, "Interesting clip." She whispered, "What the hell was that?" I shrugged. "Looks like you." She laughed, nervous, dry. "That's not me." I nodded slowly, leaned closer. "Then you won't mind me getting a copy of the original security feed?" That's when her fingers gripped the edge of the table. "We need to talk," she hissed. I stood, offered her my arm like a gentleman. We stepped out into the side garden, dimly lit, marble fountain trickling nearby, isolated just enough. She started with denial. It wasn't what it looked like. That was just a joke. A stupid moment. I didn't sleep with him. I tilted my head. "So you sneak off with coworkers and kiss them in closets now? That's your idea of networking." She switched gears. It was complicated. We were going through things. You were distant. Cold. I didn't know where we stood. I smiled. "We stood at an altar. You remember that?" Her eyes flickered. She was slipping. "You never paid attention to me. I felt alone. You were always working, always tired. I needed something that reminded me I was alive." I took a deep breath. "So you found someone who doesn't know you well enough to be tired of your selfishness." Her face twisted. She tried one last pivot. "You act like you're perfect. Like you've done nothing wrong. But you're emotionally unavailable. You shut down. You stopped showing affection. What did you expect?" I stepped forward, calm as a priest delivering last rites. I expected honesty. I expected the woman I married to speak before she strayed. I expected a partner, not a project. She scoffed. "You don't understand how hard it's been for me." I nodded slowly. "You're right. I didn't understand. Not until I saw you kiss him. Not until I found the wine receipts, the Uber logs, the hotel charges under fake names." Her expression cracked. "Panic now." "Wait, you what?" I kept my voice level. "I know everything. And I've known for weeks. Every lie. Every appointment. Every shower that lasted a little too long after yoga. I watched you rehearse every excuse in the mirror. And I let you. Because I wanted to see how far you'd go." She stepped back. Her confidence, her deflection, her arrogance, all gone. "You've been spying on me?" I leaned in, voice low. "No. I've been watching you lie. There's a difference." She didn't speak. Just stood there, shivering slightly in the warm night air. "You think this ends with an argument," I said. "It doesn't. It ends when I say it ends." I let the silence stretch between us. She was trying to gauge me, trying to predict whether I'd walk away, blow up, cry, beg. But I gave her nothing. Only silence. She whispered, "What happens now?" I looked out at the fountain, the glimmering lights, the life she used to share with me that she thought she could hide behind. "Now," I said. "Now we go back inside. We finish dinner. We smile for the cameras. And tomorrow, your real life begins." Her lips parted like she wanted to plead. But the words wouldn't come. She'd played her part perfectly. She just didn't realize the script had been rewritten. And I was holding the final page. The next morning, the silence between us wasn't peaceful, it was a vacuum, sucking the oxygen out of every room we passed through. She tried to act normal at first, making coffee, humming lightly, pacing her steps to mine like some desperate attempt at rhythm, but her eyes kept flicking toward me, trying to read me, trying to gauge just how much damage had been done. When I didn't speak, when I didn't even look at her, that's when the unraveling began. It started small. Passive. "You're not even going to talk to me?" she asked, her voice brittle like overdried leaves. I stirred my coffee, let the silence stretch until her discomfort outweighed her pride. "I didn't mean for it to go that far," she said next, standing behind me like a shadow afraid of the light. "We were just talking at first." I was confused. Lonely. I took a sip. Didn't nod. Didn't blink. Just let her words fall into the air and disappear. That's when her tone changed faster than a coin flip. You never gave a shit about me anyway, she snapped, her voice rising. You only loved your routines. Your stupid job. You never listened to me, never saw me. I was just some prop in your picture-perfect life. I turned to her then, finally, and said, no. You were the one thing I protected from everything. Even myself. She blinked like I'd slapped her. Then the tears came, and not real ones, not yet, but the practiced quiver of someone who knows crying buys time. You smothered me, she said, voice cracking now, more performance than pain. You needed control over everything. I couldn't breathe around you. I set my cup down. Then why did you choke on someone else's name when you were in our bed? That hit something. Her expression faltered. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. When it did, it was venom. You're disgusting, she hissed. You're not a man. You're a coward hiding behind technology and silence. A real man would have handled this face-to-face instead of creeping around like some spineless stalker. I nodded slowly, deliberately. A real woman doesn't keep her legs open and her mouth shut at the same time. She slapped the counter, hard, trying to jar something loose in me. Anything that would prove I still felt. You're just angry because I finally had the courage to go after what I needed. I tilted my head. You needed lies? Cheap motel sheets? Another man to tell you what I used to, before you started using it against me. Her voice went shrill now, jagged around the edges. You think you're so clever, so in control, but you're not. You're just a bitter, empty man with nothing left to offer. I stepped closer, close enough that she had to tilt her head to meet my eyes. Then why are you still here? She flinched. That's what cut her. Not the insult, but the truth embedded in it. Because if she really believed what she was saying, she'd have walked. But she hadn't. Because this wasn't about freedom, it was about control. And she'd just lost it. She tried shifting again, dialing back the rage like she could reset the whole narrative. I made a mistake, okay? I wasn't proud of it. But you're not innocent either. You pulled away first. You stopped touching me. You made me feel invisible. My stare didn't move. You made yourself invisible. I just stopped chasing shadows. Her lip trembled, but I saw the calculation behind it. If she couldn't guilt me, she'd try to shame me. No wonder you're alone. You think silence is strength. It's not. It's fear. You're just too scared to admit that you were never enough for me. I gave her the smallest smirk. Then why did you settle for a man who doesn't even have his own apartment? She went pale. That one struck deep. She hadn't told me anything about the guy. But I'd known. Found his address. Knew his living situation. Saw the mattress on the floor and the half-used cologne bottle she once bought me, now repurposed on his nightstand. Her mouth opened and closed, fish-like, wordless. Then she snapped, You think you're better than me? You're not. You're just good at pretending. I nodded again, slow and deliberate. I pretended long enough to become immune. Now she was unraveling. Pacing, ranting, eyes wild, throwing accusations like darts in a storm. You're sick. You always were. Obsessive. Controlling. You probably wanted me to cheat just so you could play this little power game. I walked past her, calmly, into the living room. She followed, still shouting, still trying to provoke. Say something. Scream. Yell. Be a fucking man. I turned quiet, unshaken. I stopped being your man the day you started faking orgasms and calling them connection. She staggered back, wounded in a way no volume could achieve. You're dead inside, she whispered. You don't even care. And I said, exactly. That silence broke her more than anything I'd said before. Because that's when it clicked. There would be no argument, no dramatic scene to win, no fight to twist back in her favor. Just an abyss. No emotion. No forgiveness. No reaction. I wasn't trying to hurt her anymore. I simply didn't care. And that terrified her far more than anything I ever could have said. Revenge isn't fire. It's frost. It spreads slowly, silently, freezing every nerve until the body doesn't even realize it's dying. And I had no interest in theatrics, no shouting matches or broken dishes. I wanted silence. Precision. I wanted her to fall while she still thought she was flying. The morning after our confrontation, I kissed her on the forehead before she left for work. She smiled, thought it meant I was softening, that I was willing to heal together. But that was the signal. The beginning. While she sat in her office pretending to be someone worth respecting, I went to war. First, the finances. I'd spent months quietly rerouting income streams, closing unnecessary joint accounts, funneling my salary into a separate savings account under a trust with my name only, secured by legal insulation she couldn't touch. The joint credit cards? Canceled. I let her try to buy lunch that day before the call came in from the bank. Suspicious activity, they'd say. Temporary hold. I'd already changed the passwords, locked down every shared subscription, froze the joint card we used for utilities, then transferred everything back to my name. The house? Inherited. Deeded to me. She'd never noticed the amendment in the will, the way the mortgage was restructured. She never asked questions when it worked in her favor. Now it wouldn't. Next was evidence. Not just for me, but for the future, for custody, for leverage, for obliteration. I compiled everything. Screenshots of messages, photos, videos, bank statements that proved her lies. A timeline, annotated and indexed like a goddamn dossier. I stored it in a cloud folder shared only with my lawyer, who I'd already met twice under the guise of networking for work. He was brutal, efficient, and I made sure he had everything he needed. Divorce paperwork? Filed quietly, processed through a friend's firm out of state to avoid local gossip. Grounds? Infidelity. Proof? Overwhelming. She wouldn't see it coming. I had it timed perfectly. She'd be served on a Thursday afternoon, halfway through a yoga retreat she planned with her little Instagram therapist circle. Nothing says enlightenment like a legal ambush over green juice. Her car? Leased under my name. I reported it as needing recovery, filed a repo request. They'd be looking for it by next week. Insurance? Canceled. Phone plan? Separated. The number she used for years was under my corporate account, now terminated. She could explain to her new boyda why she suddenly had no signal. I even transferred our dog's vet records and registration to my name only, already prepped with my new address. She loved that dog more than me by the end, and I wasn't going to let her keep a single thing she didn't earn. But the real strike, the one she never anticipated, was the fallout. I drafted an email, carefully worded, calm, factual, with all attachments necessary. It was sent to 5 people, her parents, her sister, her 2 closest friends. No slander. No insults. Just the truth. I thought you should know what's happening. This is between us, but given the deception involved, I felt transparency was appropriate. If she's told you otherwise, I'm happy to provide further documentation. I signed it plainly. No threats. No bitterness. Just clarity. Within an hour, I had 3 responses. Her sister was furious at her. Her mother asked if I was okay. Her best friend never replied, but I saw her unfollow my wife on Instagram that same night. Quiet fractures, rippling outward. Then came her job. She worked at a mid-sized firm with a strict ethics policy, especially around workplace relationships. I didn't expose her directly. That would be petty. I simply sent an anonymous tip with a video file to HR, formatted to look like it came from an outside observer. The footage showed her in the supply closet. Her and him. No names. But the timestamp matched a work event. Let the internal investigation do the rest. I didn't want her fired. Not immediately. I wanted the whisper campaign. The cold shoulders. The delayed promotions. The sense that she was being watched, judged, distrusted. That's the kind of rot that doesn't kill fast. It eats from within. And while all of this unfolded like a quiet opera of destruction, I smiled. Made dinner. Watched Netflix with her. Let her rest her head on my chest, still convinced that we were rebuilding. That we were stronger now. I nodded at her future plans, agreed when she said we should try therapy again. All the while, the walls were closing in. And the final nail? I set up a new apartment across town, modern, clean, minimal. I signed the lease in silence. Moved my essentials in slowly over several weeks. When the papers were served, I'd already be gone. No explanation. No final speech. Just a folded letter on the kitchen table with the words, "You can lie to yourself." But not anymore to me. That was the revenge. Not the loss of love, but the loss of illusion. I didn't take anything from her. I just gave her exactly what she created, emptiness. And when she finally looked around and saw everything missing, money, support, reputation, trust, she'd realize I didn't leave her. She discarded me long ago. I just took the trash out. It was a Saturday evening, the same kind she used to live for, dressed up, admired, surrounded by the right people in the right setting with the right lighting. It was her sister's engagement party, a garden venue strung with soft fairy lights and dotted with clusters of well-dressed family, friends, and colleagues. She was glowing, confident, wearing that blue satin dress she once told me was too special to waste on small occasions. I let her choose my tie that night. Let her fix my collar and smile at me like we were still the couple people envied. She had no idea that everyone in that garden already knew. The whispers had started days before, quiet enough to be deniable, sharp enough to cut. Screenshots had been passed discreetly, forwarded by friends of friends. Her sister had seen the video, the supply closet moment. Her mother had read the messages, seen the timestamped hotel check-ins. Her father hadn't spoken to her in 2 days. But she thought she still had control. She thought she could charm her way through it, like always. So she made her rounds, hugging relatives, complimenting outfits, laughing a little too loud, sipping wine like it was courage. I stayed a step behind her, not clinging, not chasing, just present, watching. And that's what unraveled her first. She kept glancing back at me, trying to read my face. I gave her nothing. Just a polite smile. Not anger. Not pain. Just indifference dressed in civility. It was her best friend who delivered the first real blow. They met near the bar, embraced like old times, and then her friend leaned in and said something quiet, sharp, final. I watched the color drain from her face. Her hand hovered in midair, unsure whether to reach out or retreat. Her friend turned, walked away without another word. No scene. No drama. Just silence and distance. That was the first fracture. Then came her cousin, the one who used to post Instagram stories about how real love always wins. She made eye contact with me first, then looked at my wife and gave her a nod that said I know. Didn't even stop to say hi. My wife's smile began to falter, muscles twitching under the weight of unraveling control. She turned to me. "What's going on?" she asked, voice low, cracked around the edges. I took a sip of champagne and said, "You should mingle." Then came her sister, the bride-to-be, holding a wine glass like it was the only thing keeping her upright. She walked up to us slowly, with the calm of someone who'd already grieved and now just wanted to clear the wreckage. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked my wife, her voice steady, heartbroken. My wife tried to laugh it off. "Tell you what? You're being weird." Her sister didn't laugh. About the affair. About Chris. About the lies. The hotel. My wife's face twisted. "Who told you that?" she snapped, suddenly sharp. Her sister raised an eyebrow. "Does it matter? It's true, isn't it?" And that's when it happened. The silence. The kind that spreads like smoke. People turned. Conversations paused. The band stopped playing mid-song. And my wife, who had spent the last few weeks perfecting her image of reinvention and redemption, was now center stage, cornered in a garden of her own shame. She looked at me, then at her sister, then back at me. "Are you really doing this?" she whispered. "Dear?" "No." I didn't respond. Didn't need to. My silence was a verdict. She looked around, desperate for a lifeline. Her parents? Standing stiffly by the far table, her father shaking his head in disbelief. Her mother wiping her eyes. Chris? Nowhere to be seen. He hadn't answered her last message. She didn't know I'd spoken to him 3 days earlier, offered him a peek at the wreckage she'd leave behind. He bailed. Ghosted her. Blocked her. Told mutual friends she was toxic. Now she stood alone in the spotlight, surrounded by whispers and stares, her armor of lies collapsing piece by piece. She tried to save face. "It's not what you think," she said loudly, waving her hand like she could shoo away the truth. "We were having problems. I made a mistake. It's private." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the irony was surgical. She built her entire identity on curated perfection. And now, in the most public way possible, the curtain was yanked. She turned to me one last time. "Say something," she pleaded, voice cracking into something unrecognizable. I stepped forward, close enough for only her to hear. "You wanted to be seen. Now they see you." Her lip quivered. Her mascara smudged. And then she broke, right there under the fairy lights, knees trembling, face contorted, gasping for air that no longer belonged to her. She dropped her wine glass. It shattered at her feet. Symbolic. Fitting. I didn't move. Just stood there, still, silent, while the crowd watched the final act of a tragedy she wrote line by line. And as the whispers turned to silence, and the music never resumed, she realized the worst part wasn't that I left. It was that I stayed. Calm. Composed. Watching. While her world collapsed without a single word from me. The aftermath of the party should have been quiet, but humiliation doesn't fade behind closed doors. It festers, especially when pride is all someone has left. She showed up at my brother's house the next day, where I was staying temporarily, uninvited, still wearing the remnants of her shattered confidence like a cracked porcelain mask. It was supposed to be a calm Sunday lunch, my family, her parents, a few mutual friends trying to talk things through under the pretense of concern. I hadn't said much yet, letting her squirm under the silence, hoping maybe she'd muster a sliver of accountability. But instead, she walked in like a martyr, head high, voice trembling with false courage. You ambushed me, she said to me, her tone already rising, eyes darting around the room as if looking for backup. You embarrassed me in front of everyone I love. How could you? I set my fork down slowly. My brother leaned forward, sensing the storm brewing. Her father rubbed his temples. Her mother looked away, eyes red-rimmed, exhausted. I stood, calm but sharp. No, I said, my voice slicing through the tension. You embarrassed yourself. I just stopped cleaning up the mess. She laughed sharp, unhinged. Oh please, you think this makes you look strong? Broadcasting my mistakes like you're some wounded saint. My sister stood, trying to intervene. This isn't the time, but I raised a hand without looking at her. She wants to talk? Let's talk. She stepped closer, face flushed. You're acting like I'm some villain. You were distant, cold, half alive for months. I was lonely. You pushed me away. I turned toward the others in the room, addressing them as witnesses. So let's get this straight. I pushed her away. That's the excuse we're going with? Not the secret hotel visits. Not the 2-month emotional affair turned physical while she told me she was finding herself in yoga classes. Not the gaslighting. Not the lies. It was me, apparently, because I had the audacity to trust her. Her mother began crying quietly. Her father clenched his jaw. She sputtered, desperate. You were tracking me like a stalker. Spying on me, do you even hear how controlling that sounds? I laughed once, hollow. Tracking you? After I smelled cologne on your clothes that didn't belong to me? After I watched you lie with a straight face about being at Dana's while Dana was at a concert 3 states away? Yeah, I tracked you. Because you stopped making sense and started rewriting reality. Is this all about revenge then? She snapped. Destroying my life because your ego couldn't handle a mistake? I stepped toward her now, voice rising, not shouting, but thunderous in tone. No. This is about consequences. You don't get to nuke a marriage and then cry foul when the fallout lands on you. Her voice cracked. It wasn't supposed to go that far. It just happened. I didn't mean for it to become what it did. Her friend, the one who'd stayed quiet until now, whispered, he begged you to come clean. You laughed at him. Gasps spread like wildfire through the room. She turned on her. You said you had my back. Her friend stood. I had your back when I thought you made a mistake. Not when I realized you were still lying about it weeks later. Her voice turned shrill. Everyone's against me now? I'm the villain? I'm the only one who did anything wrong. And that's when I hit her with it, the monologue I'd been carrying like a loaded weapon. You didn't just cheat on me. You assassinated the version of me that trusted people. You smiled at me while you were sleeping with someone else. You kissed me goodnight with a mouth still warm from betrayal. You used my loyalty like a leash and then blamed me when you ran. This isn't about love or mistakes. This is about the kind of person you are when no one's watching, and now, everyone is. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Just breath. Just collapse. People were recording now. Someone on the stairs whispered, Jesus. She tried to speak, her voice barely holding together. Please, don't do this. Not like this. I stepped back, fixing my jacket. I already did this. You're just catching up. Her father stood, looking at her like he didn't know her anymore. I warned you, he said, voice low. You had everything, and you set it on fire. My brother took a step toward me, hand on my shoulder, steady. Her mother turned away completely. And finally, she broke. Full sobs now, mascara smudging, hands shaking as she tried to hold onto the version of herself that hadn't been exposed to daylight. You don't understand, she cried. I didn't want to lose you. I stared at her. You didn't lose me. You gave me away. Now watch what happens when I'm no longer holding you together. Then I turned, walked past everyone, and out the door. No slamming. No drama. Just the sound of heels clattering behind me as she followed, too late, too broken, too far behind. She lost the job within a month, officially. They called it restructuring. But she knew, and so did everyone else. HR didn't appreciate scandal. The whispers had spread too far, too fast, and when a client's wife flagged the supply closet video floating around Reddit, it was only a matter of time. Her boss didn't even look her in the eye during the exit interview. She packed up her desk in silence, trying to ignore the averted glances of coworkers she once gossiped with over lunch. By then, her social circle had already collapsed. Dana blocked her. Her so-called best friend left the group chat without a word. And even the acquaintances who used to comment fire emojis on her selfies suddenly couldn't make time for brunch. Her sister didn't return texts. Her father wouldn't answer calls. Her mother sent one message. I don't know who you are anymore. She tried to reach out to Chris, the man she'd thrown everything away for. But his number was disconnected, his Instagram wiped clean. He left the state, changed jobs, moved on. He hadn't loved her. He loved the secrecy, the thrill, the stolen moments. When the secrecy died, so did the illusion. So she moved out of town, back to the place she said she'd never return to, the kind of town where people mind their own business, mostly because they already know everyone else's. She found a small apartment above a laundromat and picked up a job at a local diner. No one asked questions. She worked long shifts and worn sneakers, pretending not to see the judgment in the eyes of people who vaguely recognized her from the scandal threads. Her phone went silent most nights. No texts. No notifications. Just the occasional cruel DM from someone who found the video, followed by a block. She deleted every photo of us. Tried to erase the life she ruined. But digital ghosts don't vanish that easily. Her Instagram, once filled with curated joy and faux deep captions, sat untouched. No likes. No comments. Just a timeline of a woman unraveling in reverse. And then, one night, I got a call. Unknown number. I let it ring. It rang again. And again. Finally, I answered. Just once. Hello, I said, knowing exactly who it was. Her voice was soft, broken. It's me, she said. I don't even know where to start. I didn't say anything. Just let her fill the silence. I'm sorry, she whispered. I ruined everything. I know that now. I was stupid. I was selfish. And I would give anything to undo it. I looked out the window, watching the city lights. I'm different now, she said. I've been through hell. I lost everything. I lost myself. But I never stopped loving you. Not really. She was crying now, breath hitching between words. Do you think maybe we could talk? Just talk. I let the silence sit between us like a tombstone. Then I spoke, clear and calm. Strange, I said. I don't even remember your name anymore. I ended the call, blocked the number, walked back into my life without looking back. Because that's what happens when someone sets fire to the bridge and thinks they can swim back through the ashes. She thought she was irreplaceable. Now she's not even a memory. Thank you for listening to my story. I'd love to know, where are you from? And did this story hit the way you expected?